Okay, now that everybody's in the room, welcome you to another day of the dojo. So, let's go ahead and get started. Facing the front of the room. Show me, right? Os. Facing sensei. Hands at her sides. Sensei, right? Os. Today's video is going to be all about body weight training. Let's get to it. Body weight training is when you use nothing but your own body weight to make yourself stronger. I'm going to go over some of the classics like push-ups, but I'm going to be going a little bit deeper into push-ups. For instance, I'm going to be covering 15 different types of push-ups and how you can do them differently. This is something that you have to understand your own skill, and you have to also understand where you are at your level. If one push-up is too difficult for you, you might have to come back to this when you have more strength. That being said, let's go ahead and get into a normal push-up. Both hands are flat on the ground, shoulder width apart. My feet are going to be fully extended. Let's go ahead and do 3. Each, knee, side. Okay? Let's go ahead and get into a modified push-up. So this is where you run your knees, your feet are together, you can lock your feet together, or just keep them straight. Each, knee, side. That's your modified push-up. Okay, let's get into knuckle push-ups. Knuckle push-ups is something that you're going to have to understand if you're strong enough to do this. So, if it starts to feel uncomfortable, you might want to start learning how to do this push-up on soft surfaces and just learning how to hold your body weight. A good way to do this is just holding and seeing if you can hold your own weight. If you can hold your own weight, that's a good indicator that you can start doing this push-up. You can try practicing this in 2 ways. Once your knuckles are in place, each, knee, side. That's a knuckle push-up. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump into diamond push-ups. Diamond push-ups is when you make the diamond shape in your hands. So, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be placing that directly in front of me, and I'm going to try 3. Again, if this is too difficult, come back to it when you have more body strength. Each, knee, side. Okay, now we're going to get into clap push-ups. This is something you have to make sure that if you're going to practice, have something like a pillow beneath you, just in case you can't make it. This is again something that you need to know that you're able to do. You have to feel pretty confident about doing before you actually be able to try it. Let's give 3 clap push-ups. Each, knee, side. Clap push-ups. Okay, now we're going to do chest claps. Same thing, but instead when I come up, I'm not going to clap my hands together. I'm going to push, slap my chest, go back down. This is again still something that you need to know your level for. 3 chest push-ups, or 3 chest clap push-ups. This might go in the bloopers. Each. Knee. Woo. Sun. Woo. Chest clap push-ups. Okay, next one's going to be more of a stretching push-up, which they do exist. This is called a Hindu push-up. Hopefully I can do this. come up, give it all your energy, and extend your hands and feet, and then catch yourself back in a push-up position. I recommend a pillow being underneath you or having soft surfaces. Again, that you have to kind of know your limitations. Superman push-ups. Okay. Burpee push-ups are when you're standing fully up, you squat down, hands are on the ground, you're going to shoot your feet behind you into a push-up position. You're going to do a quick push-up. You shoot your feet in, you look up, burpees. There's 2-foot burpees and 1-foot burpees. You lift 1 foot, repeat the same process. Okay, that's for our push-up list. So, the next part about doing body weight training, now that we're done with our push-ups, is I have another category built up where I'm going to do ones that don't involve push-ups. So, these might be a little bit easier. These might involve a little bit more movement to them, where a push-up is very stationary, it stays in one spot. So let's go ahead and get into some of our standing ones first. So the first one I want to target is just simple step-ups. If you have stairs at home, you can hold onto the railing while you do this. If you have, really stairs is what I would really say. Not a lot of you are going to have what I was going to suggest, which is a tire. I personally like tires only because, well, I have 2 of them. So let's go ahead and get into the first one. This is called a step up. And it's very, very simple. Step ups can only become more challenging by however much you want it to be. So I'm only using 1 step right now. And all I'm doing is I'm stepping up and back down. So I'll do this for about 10 count each. Me, Tom, Chi, go, rope, siege, hatch, ku, ju. So, this is something that you can do adding 2 steps. So if you want to get really challenging, if you have steps that have 2, you can walk up 2, back down 2. So make sure you're holding your railing if you're going to be going backwards 2 steps. If you want to add more of a challenge, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many steps you have available to you. If you're like me and you do have a tire laying around, they're awesome too. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about still kind of goes with balance, but it's a body weight thing. So it's called the pistol squat. The pistol squat is where I try and keep this leg out. I'm going to try and drop my weight as low as I can and then come back up. So the lower to the ground you can get, keeping your foot straight up, is ideally what you want to do. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and go the lowest I can. So work within your body's limits, I would say. So if I'm here and I have my foot out, I'm going to try and look forward as much as I can. I'll turn and face you guys just because you're my favorite thing in the world. Alright. I drop, and then I come back up. And that's a pistol squat. The lower you can go, the better. Make sure that you have enough room to do that. So, the next few activities are, we're going to jump into one more standing. I lied. We're going to do jumping lunges. So, jumping lunges, I'm going to show you what a lunge looks like. So if you're standing straight up, you're going to get right into like a Zen Fujinachi, or this is called a lunge. My feet are very wide apart. My hands are going to be up. If I were to come back up and switch the feet and go into another front stance, there's a good lunge. And I always come back to center. Jumping lunges is different. Let's go for 10. So I'm going to show you how you alternate sides without coming back to center. So what that means is where my feet are apart, I don't want to come back to center. I just jump to the opposite side. My hands are going to stay up the entire time. Okay. Let's do 10. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. And I didn't emphasize too much in the beginning of bending that knee through, but it's a very important thing to let that knee bend through in the back. So, let's go ahead and jump into dragon walks. Dragon walks are pretty fun once you get good at it. So, what I'm going to do is if I'm standing straight up, I'm going to walk my hands down. I'm going to walk them out. And from right here, if I'm going to move any kind of way forward, is I want my knee to almost touch either my chest or my elbow. And keep it in place, and then bring the other one up. Everything walks 1 foot at a time. So, you could eventually get to the point where you're going across your body. So, we'll probably revisit a little bit more of that in the future. The frozen V is we're going to be sitting right on our bottoms, and the idea is to bring our feet up off the ground and lean back just enough to make the letter V of our bodies. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate. So, and you hold. I'm going to go for a 5 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, go. And you sit it back down. That's the frozen V. So, last part, we're going to do mountain climbers. Mountain climbers was one of my favorites growing up. So, all you gotta do is, this is a very stationary activity. My hands are here. I'm gonna lift my feet. And you just bring your knees in. And you can do that for about 30 seconds in between. So try and just do that 30 times. Okay, and that's all we have for bodyweight training. I'm Sensei Kailash, and let's get into the workout. Sensei Kailash here, and sometimes when it comes to martial arts training, it's not all about physical training. Sometimes I want you to sharpen your mind as much as you sharpen your body. It sounds like one of our habits. So, today I want to tell you guys 2 Zen stories, and I want you to think and kind of get your own idea of what you think the answer is. Now, a Zen story is not something that has an actual ending, meaning I won't tell you the answer of what you should think. It's what you believe the answer is. So, there's no right or wrong, but I more or less like to hear back from you guys. I'll probably put this in one of your questions, so I want to hear back from you. What did you gain from one of these 2 stories? So, I want to start with My Nature. That's the name of this story, is My Nature. There's 2 brothers walking the side of a river, and as they're walking past, they see a scorpion splashing into the water. The brother takes his hands and he cups them, and he lifts the scorpion out of the water, and he gets stung, and he places it on the bed. They begin walking again, and that same scorpion walks right off the edge of the riverbank and back into the water. The brother once again sees this and walks over, cups his hands, grabs the scorpion, and lifts him out of the water. The scorpion once again stings him in the arm, and he places him on the river, or on the land next to the river, and he begins walking again. And his brother looks at him and says, "Brother, you know it's the scorpion's nature to sting you and poison you. Why do you lift him up out of the water?" And the brother looks at him and replies, "It's my nature to save." At the end of the story, the scorpion once again walks right into the river and begins drowning himself, into which the brother again saves.
this cycle happens over and over again because the scorpion's nature is to sting. If you don't know what a scorpion is, I just Google it or ask mom or dad, grandpa, grandma, whoever's at home, and they can kind of give you a better of an understanding of what a scorpion is. I'm going to generically describe it to you. They're usually black. They have a really long tail that comes up in like a letter C, and they have a stinger in the end, kind of like a bee. Scorpions are not like bees though, they're poisonous, or I should say they're venomous, which means to inject. So when they hit you with their tail, that's actually how they kill their prey. So that's just their nature, that's how they live. That brother kept picking him up out of the water to save his life because that's just his nature. He's a kind-hearted person. So I want you to think of that and tell me that's kind of like what I gather out of it. So I want to hear more of what you think of the story. Our other story that we're kind of talking about today is called The Vow of Silence. So we have a few brothers and they're sitting together and they say to themselves during the day, they said, you know, we should promise ourselves one night of silence without making each other irritated or angry. So they all sit together and they agree that they're going to have a sleep out, or a camp, I should say, in the living room. So they light their candles and they get comfy in their sleeping bags, and they've agreed to sleep together to make sure that everybody keeps their promise of not breaking the word or not breaking any silence. So the wind eventually blows open the windows and knocks the candles out, so they lose their light, and the first brother says, "Oh no." The second brother says, "Shh, we shouldn't be talking." The third brother says, "Ha, see, I didn't say a single word." All three of those brothers had a role in the play in losing the vow of silence, but I want to see what you guys think on those two stories. How are they different? And what do you really get out of those two different stories? In the second story, our three brothers said that they weren't going to break the vow of silence until something happened. And then the first one said, "Uh-oh." The second brother said, "Shh, we shouldn't be talking." And the final brother says, "Ha, I didn't say a single thing." So think about that second story and how they did something wrong in that story. Now, I have a lot of stories actually to tell you guys. So in the future, you don't be too surprised if you see me somewhere in a nice area, because Sensei does enjoy the great outdoors, telling you a Zen story. One of my favorite Zen stories, I'm going to wrap this up with a bonus story actually. So this is my favorite one that was told to me when I was a student learning karate. So there's a man who knows everything about martial arts. He knows everything there is to know. And he lives alone. Well, the old man knows that he's getting too old to the point that one day he won't be able to teach. But he wants karate to be passed down. He wants somebody to learn everything. So he puts up a few posters in the market and he says, "I will take but one student." So the very next day, the man opens his door and he sees millions of people outside of his door, and he says to himself, he walks outside and he picks up his milk, his carton of milk and his newspaper, folds it underneath, and he says, "Too many, go home." To that, the old man closes his door and he waits till the next morning, and he opens his door and he comes out and he still sees hundreds of thousands of people. He comes out, picks up his newspaper, picks up his milk, folds the newspaper underneath, and says, "Too many, go home." To that, the old man closes his door, and this time he waits a week before opening the door again. This time the man opens the door and he only sees tens of thousands of people. Picks up his milk, picks up his newspaper, folds it. "Too many, go home." This time the man doesn't open his door for 6 months. He finally opens up the door and he sees 3 students sitting outside of his house. And he says to himself, "Okay, I'm going to take you 3 in, and we're going to see who's going to be the one who does everything I tell him to do and wants to learn karate for the right reasons. So they go inside and he each gives them their own chores list of cleaning their house, making sure that their gis are pressed and ready to learn, and making sure that they're taking care of their homework assignments from school. So, at the end of 3 weeks, the old man realizes he looks at all 3 of their jobs and they all do the same quality work. They're all picture perfect. All the floors are scrubbed, all the walls are clean, their gis are nice and palmed and pressed. And he says, okay, I have to pick one. We're going to go on a hike together. He puts together his gear and he starts to climb the world's largest mountain. Together the students climb, and at the end they finally get to the top of the mountain, and there is a dome inside where there was trees and animals living inside of the top of this mountain. The old man makes them sit right behind this bush and he points to a tiger. And he says, see how the tiger's over there? And he starts talking about nature and how things are. And the tiger starts to wake up, and the old man walks out in front of the bushes and he tells him to stay there. The tiger wakes up and he starts stretching his muscles and stretching his claws, and he sees the old man. He starts licking his lips and starts moving towards the old man. The old man doesn't move at all. So eventually the tiger starts to move a little bit faster and faster until the tiger eventually starts a full-fledged run towards the man. The old man has not moved a muscle. Finally, the tiger jumps out at the very last second, tries to get a nice jump attack on the old man, and the old man shouts, and the tiger disperses into little pieces of fur. The old man turns to the 3 students and he goes to the first one, would you like to learn how to do that? He said, yes, yes, that would be absolutely amazing. I want to know how to shout animals into balls of fur. And he says, you're not ready. Go. He turns to the second student and he says, would you like to learn how to do that? The second student says, only if I have to. The teacher says, you're not ready. Go home. He turns to the third student and he says, would you like to learn this? And the student responds, no, I don't see the sense in that. The tiger was doing what he naturally does, going after food. You interrupted the balance. The man finally turns to him and says, you understand balance. I will teach you everything I know. That student later goes on to learn everything about everything when it comes to martial arts. So, that's another story. That's one of my favorite stories when it comes to learning what I would like to call just any kind of stories, actually. But I'm going to be going more and more over these stories, and I want you to think, just like that last one, I want you to think about your own, what does that make you think or feel, and what do you get from that? Would have you been one of the 3 students? If so, which one of the 3 students do you think you would have been? And do you want to learn how to shout tigers into big balls of fur? I can't do that. So don't put me in a position where I have to shout at a tiger. It will win. Alright, that's all I have for the 3 stories today. That's Sensei Gaidosh, and I hope you enjoy.
So, the last thing I want to do with you guys, before I let you go, is I want to do a cool down. And what that looks like is, you guessed it, it's going to be dealing with balancing. I'm going to be crossing my feet, taking this hand, I'm going to do a big circle into my body, and a big circle into my body, and I'm going to pull my hands up. I'm going to take some deep breaths. I'm going to count to 3 once I take a deep breath to release it. Each, ni, san. I'm going to do this one more time. Each, ni, san. I'm going to be extending my arms right above my head. I want them as much behind my ears as I can. Ready? Take a deep breath in. Each, ni, san. One more. Each, ni, san. I bring my hands in. I'm going to extend them forward. Take a deep breath in. Each, ni, san. Sun. Again. Ich, ni, sun. From here, I can relax my body, and now we're ready for the final part of today. How do we exit, and how do we end class? So, at the end of class, we should all be on our assigned spots. For me, it's right here in the front of the room. I'm going to call ski, or I might have somebody that's appointed my senpai. If I appoint somebody my senpai, I'll explain that more later. It means that they're allowed to do this. So if I call ski, my feet are together, my hands are at my sides, and I'm going to tell us to point to the showman. The showman is at the very front of the room, so it's always important to begin here. Showman, you ready? Boom. Then we turn to sensei. Sensei, you ready? Boom. If I have teachers in the room, I'm going to be turning to them especially. They are very important, and you should be respecting them as well, just like they should be bowing back. Then we turn to our teacher, and after we're done, I would turn to you. So, student, you ready? Boom. And that's how I'd end class. So, I hope you learned a lot from our first day. There's a lot more videos to come from this, and I'm going to keep adding more and more on. So until then, stay safe. Make sure you wear your mask if you're in public. And I can't wait till you guys start answering some of those questions I have for you. Have an awesome day, Summit Academy.